Hello, my name is Dmitry Pak, and this is my video presentation for the ARW1 course. To begin with, in my essay, I have observed the topic about video games, particularly refuted the counter-arguments of some critics who believe that video games are harmful for people, especially for children. In the introductory part, I briefly discussed video games themselves, as well as showed my thesis statement. Then, in the main part, I introduced three main reasons for criticizing video games, which are damage to education, health, and social state of a person, and explained why these people are mistaken and how people may actually benefit from playing video games. Finally, I summarized my research and concluded the topic. So, my topic is about video games. The head factor that affected my choice is, as you may have guessed, my own passion and my own interest and involvement in gaming. I literally have played video games since I was 4 years old, I think, when my elder brother taught me how. After this is, of course, my experience of hearing mostly bad feedback about video games from a big number of people, especially from my relatives. I think that they are too skeptical about my hobby, and it has become my goal to prove them wrong. Last but not least, I thought that this is an extraordinary and interesting thing, which is very easy to understand and which is also differs from other topics which are always too boring for me. So when I firstly came up with the idea of my topic, the task with the thesis statement seemed very easy for me. However, it was probably the hardest thing to perfect. Even though I knew what I was going to observe, it was quite challenging to develop and create the proper thesis statement as it was required. For this assignment, I needed to create a structure first so that I could have gotten a nice thesis. I began to put on many ideas and thoughts, but it was too general. They haven't really showed the way to create a specific argument. So I've focused on more particular things and finally got my thesis statement as it should be. Brief, informative, and, if you can say so, argumentative. After my thesis statement was ready, I began to think about the way how I will introduce my counter-arguments and refute them. After all, there are no wrong opinions, right? So I had to get a nice explanation of my arguments against the counter-arguments. To achieve this goal, I've started my very long, in terms of time, research. I've actually found plenty of good information, which helped me to prove my statements. Firstly, in my body paragraphs, I've said about the counter-arguments and the reasons behind those counter-arguments. And after this, I've presented my refutation to the counter-arguments and reinforced them with the evidence and examples from the sources of my choice. What about the choice of my sources? It was very hard to find truly reliable and credible sources. We had an advice from you to use Google for scholars, but I could barely find something relevant for my topic. The problem was either in material or in the timeliness of the source, so I began to look for the information on Google and had to separate good sources from bad sources, which actually wasn't quite hard, I think. After I found 7 or 8 sources, approximately, I began to look for the best 3 of them as we were required. In my opinion, the choice of my sources was a little bit challenging for me, particularly because I was too critical about them, and a little misstep in the source made me believe that it was not credible enough for my paper. So I had to find the perfect one. All of my sources were the part of the refutation of the counter-arguments of the opposers of my thesis statement. They helped me to strengthen my argument by using other professionals or even ordinary people's opinions. The main role of the sources, in my opinion, was in their mental benefit, because as I was looking for a good argument, I was thinking that it will not be very confident. So the sources that I found really helped me to stay on my opinion and state my claims about the video games. Actually, almost all of my refutations were based on the quotes from these sources, after which I was able to restate them in my words and continue my thoughts and opinions, which was supported by the sources themselves. So, to conclude, it was a really helpful and interesting assignment for me personally, because I've learned a couple of things from it. First of all, is of course the topic itself. I was always interested in it for a very long time, but never actually did any kind of research, so the assignment helped me to do so. Then, of course, goes the improvement as a writer. I was always struggling with the essays, but with the structure and the plans to do how to write introduction, body parts, and conclusion, even with the 1,200 word requirement, I found it very easy and learned from it very well. Finally, the proper APA formatting, margins, font, literally everything made a really good impact on me, because I realized how specific and small details may affect the whole work, and this rule works not only on a paper but also in real life. To summarize, I want to say that this ARW course was very exciting and interesting, and also helpful in terms of education. I will continue to improve and become better and better. Everyone knows that we are learning every day, every second. So even if I've done this assignment very good, that doesn't mean that I need to stop improving. There is always some space to develop, and only by constant learning we can achieve something bigger than we have now. So thank you for attention, and thank you for this course.